my gosh, what's the matter?
Oh, no. God, no, kidding, no. It's the pregnancy.
I thought you were happy about the baby.
No, it's a symptom. Like morning sickness. I keep tearing up over stupid things.
I cried about hair this morning. What are the other symptoms?
Apart from being overly emotional, I'm forgetful. I can't concentrate on anything. Oh, and then there's the food aversions.
What's that?
I can't eat things that I used to be able to eat.
Oh, my.
It's all right. It's all the natural part of pregnancy.
I'm pregnant.
Hello and welcome to Haunting Button House, a BBC Ghost podcast. I am Luke and I am joined by Tash. How are you, Tash?
All right, thanks, Luke. How are you?
What was the little chuckle then at the...
No. Nervous laugh, I think.
What have you been up to this week? I'll put you on the spot. I've written down some things so I can give you a prompt. We had a competition giveaway.
Oh, yes.
Probably our first and foremost.
Yes.
Do you want to save that to feedback?
No, we can talk about it now.
Okay.
So, we did that on Sunday.
Yes, yeah.
And so Alice won a copy of a book. I've got it right here.
Congratulations.
Got it here, all packed up and ready to go.
Yeah, we're sending
we just
out
need to find a post office because we don't.
They all close before we finish work.
So we'll find a post office and it will be on its way to Alice. So yes, that was exciting. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that it's going to one of our listeners. That's good. What else have we done? Remind me.
I've noted down here, went to a Wolves game and fireworks.
Oh yeah.
So I don't really...
we had sparklers. So we didn't have our own fireworks because we just watch other people set their money on fire. Basically, yeah. But we did set fire to sparklers, which was fun.
And to a barbecue as well.
And to a barbecue, yeah, that was, well, it wasn't actually us, but the people that we were with forgot to take the cardboard off the disposable barbecue.
I mean, everyone does
So, Simon, if you're listening. But no, that was fun. We ate food and watched some fireworks and had sparklers. If
anybody is not from the UK listening, which we don't know, we have a few listeners, we have something called Bonfire Night or Guy Fawkes Night, where we, I think you said the other day, we have fireworks and a bonfire to celebrate somebody being killed 400 years ago.
Yeah. For me. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? Because we don't do it for anyone else.
Yeah, it is a bit strange.
But clearly the British love to...
Hold a grudge, apparently.
Hold a grudge, yeah. Celebrate overturning... No, he didn't quite overturn Parliament, did he? He didn't get there.
No, he was gonna blow it up, but didn't. So we set our fireworks every year
to remember what could have been. I'm like, that was so awkward, wasn't it? Kind of.
Do we have any feedback?
Oh yes, we do have feedback. I'm quite pleased because we received an email this afternoon. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with Tony.
Okay.
Tony also commented, "I'm so behind bananas." So that was a few weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. I was like, bananas. What's that about?
Hopefully, Tony, you've caught up now. But I'm glad you sent your email today because it meant that we could include it in this episode. So Tony said, "Hi Luke and Tash. This last episode, Fools, is one of my favourites. I really enjoyed Mike in this episode, especially the English-friendly part. I did pick up on the pregnancy when she got sick, but it wasn't my first thought when she was emotional. I give the episode an 8, but I think I judge pretty harshly overall. Thanks for doing what you do. I enjoy it. Bananas." So,
thank you.
I think on reflection, I might have scored the last episode a bit too high.
I mean, you just went with your gut.
I did go with my gut, and, well, I went with my gut. So Anyway, so Doc in Docs says it's definitely Samantha Fox. As we know, Julian is a fan. I think I got confused with Megan Fox.
I was going to say.
He mentions in season 1 she was his free pass because of her enormous talent. Yes, she was a page 3 girl, 1983 to 1986. His wife picked 3 of the gladiators.
That's a sign of the times, though.
Yeah. Although Gladiators is back.
It is back now. I would argue probably...
One of the Gladiators is on Strictly, isn't she?
She is, yeah. I would argue Gladiator is probably not as popular now as it was back in the 90s, though.
Alison gave him a Samantha Fox calendar last Christmas. I don't think you would hear any ghosts on the recording, even if there were any, since the ghost hunters never got to hear Pat and Thomas on Button FM. That's very true, yeah.
That's true. And as we know, what happens on this programme is the exact...
exactly how it happens.
How it would happen, yeah.
Doc and Ducks, I'm with Marianne on pranks. I haven't read Marianne's comment out. So, haven't been pranked, but never understood them. Agree with her about the Mike storyline also, and love creepy Pat. I've encountered a number of episodes of the show. I've encountered a number of episodes of shows that I don't tend to watch unless I'm going through in order, because I don't like the story. Don't like the story, but I find I miss on great stuff from the other storylines. So, yeah.
I have some thoughts on pranks, but I'll let you get to Marianne's comment first. So
Marianne said, I absolutely loathe April Fool pranks. I have been pranked and laughed hysterically and forcedly like R. Thomas did in this episode, and I have been pranked and burst into tears like Alison. Neither are good memories, so I found this episode a little triggering for the first time through. There is a fine line between poking fun and being mean. Very, very true. After a couple of viewings, I can now see and laugh at the funny bits. I do think the Thomas prank was downright mean, though. Mike and the insurance agent are spectacularly well played. Ending with the pregnancy reveal leads us down the road to the future. So much will change. So not my favourite BBC Ghost episode. 5 out of 10? 5 out of 10?
She went with
and that was for the insurance adjuster and Mike. 5 out of 10. I am shocked and distressed. That's very low for Marianne, I think.
That is, that's quite low, yeah. I mean, I understand.
I feel like I think I just got caught up in the moment of the the spectacle of what was going on. So Caroline says, Black Cat stories. Strictly speaking, off topic, but it came up. So, I lived for about 20 years in the Hertfordshire-Essex border, and over the years there were a number of fairly solid stories of sightings of large black cats. A couple of train drivers reported seeing such a creature in fields next to the track at different times. A local man claimed to have seen one inside an old caravan parked on his land and used mainly as a shed. He withdrew, and when he returned later it had gone, but there were black hairs on the seat cover and apparently were tested and found to be indicative of a large species of cat. Oh, I would love that.
I think it might be a deadly large species of cat, though.
A family out biking in the woods came round a corner to see a very large cat crossing the path in front of them. A tree surgeon working in the woods once found curious scratch marks in the trunk of some trees which looked like large cat scratches. He then felt he was being watched and turned to see a large black cat watching him through the trees. He leaped into his truck for safety and remained there until it seemed to have gone. The fact that he was someone who worked regularly in the woods lent some credence to his story.
That sounds like the beginning of an X-Files episode.
As he was unlikely to be spooked by nothing. Most interesting was the time Gordon Ramsay had a couple of lambs which were being raised on land in the area, killed by some sort of predatory animal. When he had the remains analysed, the teeth marks were judged to be cat-like rather than any other predator. He then spent a day in our town quizzing locals about stories they'd heard of a local black cat. It was on the TV at the time. I love that. Caroline's research hub. April Fool's Day seems to have complex origin and is definitely referenced in various places from the early 16th century across Europe. There are earlier medieval references, but these are a bit more uncertain. I really love that when Alison is telling Mike she can't see the ghosts, she refers to it as her gift, which is in such contrast to her initial reaction when she realises in series 1 that she can see them all. Absolutely, that's really interesting. Definitely. Back then, she'd probably have described it as a curse. I also love the whole Joy Keelty Mike storyline. The story of the lightning strike does sound so utterly ridiculous, and Anna Crilly does a fantastic job of keeping a straight face and serious throughout. I have some misgivings about the Thomas prank. It seems really cruel. The others are all clearly a bit of fun. Yeah, I think Thomas, bless him,
went quite far.
Yeah. So that's all our feedback.
Okay.
Hopefully I've not missed any. Before we go into the episode.
Oh yeah.
I've got a bit of a confession.
Oh dear.
So this week it was my turn to get a ghost story for the end, and I forgot.
Why did we even bother?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I've just been really busy.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm sorry about that, but I'm sure no one's going to miss it.
You'll save some minutes at the end of the episode.
If you do miss it, let us know and then we'll try hard next week.
And if you go, thank God they've stopped doing those stupid stories.
Thanks for letting us know 5 series in that you don't enjoy them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really sorry. It's totally my fault and I take full responsibility. I hold myself fully accountable for the mishap. And next week, should you wish me to, I shall come back bigger and better than ever.
The 2 stories. No, don't do 2. Don't do 2. We'll be here all day if we do 2 stories. Talking of which, should we get on with the episode? So this week we are looking at series 5, episode 2, and this episode is entitled Home. Directed by Simon Hind, written by Matthew Bainton and Jim Howick. The original air date was the 13th of October 2023. So at the beginning of the episode we see Mike and Alison in bed, and Mike is awoken by a baby crying. So the aim here is to try and make you think that we've done a time jump. Yeah. But we quite quickly...
skipped about a year. Yeah. More.
But we quite quickly, and to be honest, quite obviously realise this isn't real. As we see all the ghosts are around the baby. And Mike can see all the ghosts, so that's our first sign. And he also sees Robin, who
looks
is
hench.
I tried to find out who this actor was because initially he reminded me of the guy from Friday Night Dinners who comes over. Like his mate that comes over after he's been dumped.
Yes,
it reminded me of him, but I don't think it was actually him. So that was a completely pointless tangent. But anyway. So as Mike goes to the baby and looks down, the baby, they realise that the baby needs a change of nappies, and then he gets some back chat from the baby. Basically, he says, "You haven't even got any nappies, Daddy," in Mike's own voice, which is discerning, disconcerting.
Do you know what it reminded me of? There used to be a TV show, in, I don't know, early 2000s, late 90s, called My Hero, and there was a talking baby on there.
Yeah, because they used
it was the guy from Father Ted.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah,
what's his name?
Didn't it just wasn't it just the mouth used to? It was like superimposed like somebody else's mouth over it. Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, where like it's a baby talking.
Basically,
like
the same thing.
Human.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a dream, and Mike wakes up, and. No, this must not be the dream. And we hear crying again. And we see that they've got a baby, but no ghosts this time. And as he goes over, The baby once again speaks to him, gives him some back chat. This time, much more matter of fact, and basically telling him what's in his mind. He says, basically, you're just not ready to be a dad. As Mike wakes up, and I just put, Mike is anxious, which I think that's basically the plot of this episode, is Mike's baby woes, and then we go into the intro. Yeah, just, I mean, talking babies just always is
it alarms
it's
me.
off-putting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, this clearly meant to be a nightmare, an anxiety nightmare. The next day, we see, after the intro, we see that I've just put an antiques man. We never really learn his name.
No. I think he was in the bill.
Possibly. I mean, to be honest, any British actor
has been in the bill
somebody
or
said
Casualty or Heartbeat.
They said it's the trifecta. Yeah, it's either Bill, Heartbeat, or Casualty. They're one of those three. Pretty much all gone now, apart from the one Casualty, still going strong.
I don't know if it's going strong, but it's going.
It's going.
I hope they make the bill. I hope they get it to come back. Maybe that could be our next podcast.
I'm out.
All right, me on my own, the bill from the beginning. For anyone who doesn't know what the bill is, it's a police drama.
Yeah, it's like a soap, really.
Yeah, it's like a police soap, and it was on, throughout my life. It was good though.
I never watched it. I remember it being on, but I was one of the things.
It was so good.
My mum never watched it, so I never picked it up.
My mum never watched it, but I did.
Well, there you go.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll save that for your Bill podcast. What would you call it?
Haunting the Bill.
No. Right, okay, let's move on swiftly from that. It's just not very good.
I thought you were going to say it's rude.
No, it's just
the Bill at Haunting Button House.
Oh, right, anyway. So this man is looking at Alison's vase that they're basically all the antiques in the house really that they're trying to sell. As all the ghosts are looking at Alison's baby scan that she's got. Robin thinks that the baby scan's not actually a baby, it's a fish, because he says that you can see the gills.
I can see his point.
Well, they never look as clear as you'd want
You'd
them to be.
think technology would have come much further by now.
The 4G,
the
4D
baby.
The 4D, that sounds like some kind of conspiracy that you'd hear on the internet. The 4D scan does actually look pretty decent, but yeah, the 2D ones are a bit rubbish, aren't they?
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're all looking at that as basically we find out from this man that the vase is just not really worth anything in its current condition.
It says it. Does he say it's been chipped or something?
Yeah, it's the base.
I wondered whether Julian had been knocking it about,
possibly
moving it and stuff. Because I remember, wasn't that the vase? Didn't something happen in the first series when they were trying to move it or something?
I don't know if it was the vase. I know they pushed off a cup, wasn't it? But who knows really? But yeah, it is damaged, so it's not really worth anything now. The captain is trying to theorise how they did this baby scan. He thinks it was a camera on the end of a tube.
I don't even want to think about it.
To which Julian explains, no, it's an ultrasound, and then tries to explain it and realises he has no idea what it was and wasn't there at his own daughter's ultrasound. So he's very, what's the word? Uneducated? No, I don't know. It's not the word. Anyway, we're moving on. Pat explains what it is, and the captain sort of gets on board with it when he realises.
I didn't even know what it was until Pat explained it.
Oh, really? Yeah. I knew it was bouncing back sound
waves.
Kind of like how a bat does it, isn't it? Or as the captain says, like sonar, which immediately that pricks up his ears, basically. Fanny isn't pleased with this, naturally. She thinks that a baby should be born before photos are taken of it. And the antiques guy sort of sees this baby picture as he's leaving, and basically to kick Mike in his anxiety all over again, He explains how expensive kids are, and how they go for clothes, shoes, etc., and how much buggies are, this, that, and the other. And we see Mike start basically noting things down, and we see this later on when he's got a list of everything that he needs to sort of do for this baby. But yeah, the antiques guy says that he basically goes through how all of their antiques aren't really worth that much and they're not going to get any money for them. He calls the painting restoration of Fanny shoddy, which Alison kind of takes offence at. And he also says that the I think it's the duck, isn't it? Isn't a real Gerard.
Yes.
Which we obviously know.
We knew that.
Mike, as soon as he's gone, immediately goes off to start listing things that they need for this baby and wonders if he can contact his sister and find out if they've got any old stuff to borrow them. And Alison starts getting upset at this point, and Kitty notices and comes to comfort her. Alison just says that she's just feeling upset just because she's, this is just a symptom of being pregnant. Yeah. Basically, you get upset. She said she's off her food and all these different things. And Kitty starts to think at this point that she gets upset a lot. She's off her food. Maybe she is also pregnant, and she basically is 100% certain at this point that she's pregnant. Yeah. As Alison leaves, Thomas chases after her and basically reassures her that he's going to stick by Alison no matter what. He's going to stick by her and the wee Ben, as he describes it, which takes Alison sort of taken aback by that as to why he said that. And he announces, or reveals, that he's actually Scottish, to which Alison is confused, as he doesn't sound Scottish at all.
I don't think we've ever had that before.
He's never once said it, yeah.
No.
So he puts on a Scottish accent at this point and then goes back to just his normal accent. So yeah, we find out, that he's Scottish. And they just move on from that as Alison carries on. He's going to carry on. He does ask, though, if there's been any feedback from publishers. So obviously he's been trying to get his works published, and he basically starts listing off every publisher that you can think of, and there's no response from any of them. To which Julian says that he can't even get his stuff published in the local newspaper, and Thomas says that he says that he could, and Pat says that there is actually a poetry competition for the 12th, which we find out is today. And Thomas says that he will be able to submit his masterpiece by today, and goes off to sort of think of what we find out is 200 words on the theme of home. So I guess you can see where that's going to tie into the episode title. And Pat at this point says that he could fill a book on everything that he thinks about Yorkshire. And Julian is a bit fed up with him talking about this, I suppose, and says, here he goes. And Pat goes on to list all of the things that he thinks are the best about Yorkshire.
Didn't note any down, did you?
No, it's the standard things like Yorkshire pudding and stuff like that. I can't remember all the stuff here. I noted some later on. Julian says that he lived in Reading, so why is he so
Reading?
fond? Yeah.
Julian says Pat lived in Reading.
Yeah, that's a point, because he said he had to move for the bank for his job.
Oh, I thought he was from Huddersfield.
He is from Huddersfield, but he had to move to Reading for employment at the bank. And Julian says, well, exactly. There's no employment up north. To which Pat says that it's because of Julian and his lot that shut it all down or sold it off to his mates. So that they old northern what's the word? Distrust of let's say the Tories there. Captain gets in the way of this argument as it's starting up, basically, and Alison goes, basically tells them all to go as she needs to have a lie down, No, she tells them later that she needs to go, but she said she's going for a lie down. Sorry. Mike comes in and says that his sister is having another baby, so they can't get any of her free stuff, and seems annoyed about that. And Alison has to say, "Did you say congrats?" And he's like, "I'll text her." Mike starts to look up at how much a buggy he is. I didn't realise that much, to be honest.
Neither did I.
So it was £1,500. And he said he sold their last car for less than that. Mike starts to lament the lack of money that they have coming in. And this is where Alison gets an idea, which we see a bit later on. Because he basically says that they've got all this land and nothing to do with it, basically. So, yeah.
I'm very, very interested that you missed a point in here.
What did I miss?
So when Alison's lying down, and when Mike walks in, Alison asks Mike for a drink of water.
Yes.
And then Mike's going on, and then he ends up sitting down. So Alison gets up and has to get herself her drink of water.
He's completely in the zone of...
I thought, I wonder if Luke will pick up on that. And did he? No.
I feel like I'm being put on blast on the podcast here.
I thought it was interesting that you didn't pick up
for the sake of the story, we just got to keep moving on.
Yeah.
It's not important to the story. We go back to Julian and Pat, and they're still arguing about this north-south divide, basically. Pat says that it's a 3-mile walk to even get to the post office. Julian says that, yeah.
It is in the Midlands as well.
Yeah, I know, yeah, evidently, yeah. Pat says, of course he wouldn't want to walk with his London shoes and his London hair, to which Pat says it's better than his Carlisle comb-over. Kitty comes in and basically tells Robin that she is pregnant. And Robin is sort of not trusting it because he says ghosts can't get pregnant, trust me, which has a lot of implications there. But Kitty says that she needs to lie down because she is pregnant, and I think just out of ease he just gets up and gives her a seat. Elsewhere we go back to Alison and Mike, and they're talking about how they don't have the gatehouse now, so they've got this big plot of land that's doing nothing. So they could basically just sell the land or sell part of the land that they're not using. Fanny overhears this and is very annoyed at Alison for, as she says, carving up her land, basically, or the ghost's land. And we see, after this, Thomas is trying to think of something for his poem, but he's interrupted by Fanny, who's annoyed about all of this.
When I roam, wheresoe'er I roam, nowhere is quite like home. Rubbish! Excrement!
Thomas, they're selling off the land, right from under our noses. They're scheming it as we speak.
Damn their eyes.
My thoughts exactly.
It's just such a broad theme, home. Home as in home county, home as in your house. It's nigh on impossible to know where to begin.
Did you hear me, Thorne? I said they're selling the land. The whole stretch, right from the west border to the lane.
Oh, well, is that a good bit?
Is it a good bit?
I never really go there.
Have you never stood to regard our home from its farthest corner? The long grass shimmers in the sunlight as the wind combs through the fields like gentle waves in a great, calm sea of green. Would you really want our home to be without it? Thomas, well, perhaps the others will appreciate the gravity of this gross betrayal.
The long grass shimmers in the sunlight as the wind combs through the fields like gentle waves in a great calm sea of green. Perfect stuff.
Back to Pat and Julian. They continue to argue. And they're arguing about football teams now. Obviously, Pat is fervently supporting Huddersfield. Julian says Chelsea. And like, Pat at this point goes, Chelsea, who are they? In a really high-pitched voice. this can only be a reference to the Accrington Stanley advert.
Oh, really? I didn't know that was a reference.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. There's I can't even remember what it was advertising now. It's like a cereal or something like that. But one of them says they're an Accrington Stanley fan, and he says, Accrington Stanley, who are they? So I think it has to be.
Would it have been would it have been would it have been a Pat joke or a Jim joke? Would Pat have done it as a joke because he would have heard of the Accrington Stanley thing?
That's a good point, actually.
It have been a Jim joke where they put it in hoping. Well, I guess thinking not everyone's going to get this little reference.
Accrington Stanley, who are they? When was this advert out? There's a slogan. It was for the milk board in the 80s. Okay, yeah, so possibly, yeah. Depends.
What year did Pat die? 86?
Oh, yeah, after it was originally made in 1989. Okay, so it would have been post-Pat.
Oh, so it's a Jim joke.
Jim joke then, yeah. It has to be a reference to because the tone of and how he says it is the same. But anyway, as they're arguing, Fanny enters and explains about this land sale. She says that they're going to sell off the land to Lord knows who, and Robin replies, Lord knows who, thinking it's an actual lord. The other ghosts aren't really that bothered by this. They kind of say that they don't really go on that bit of land. The captain does initially say, he goes for his morning walks there, and then realises he can still do it. I like his comment. He says, the afterlife is not bound by freehold agreements.
Yeah, see, I actually made a note before they said that.
Yeah.
It was if the land is sold, would the ghosts still be able to walk? Because obviously they can't go through the gate. They pop back, don't they? So I wasn't sure, if they did sell the land... and it was part of the house when they died, would they still be able to go there? But I suppose they would because...
they wouldn't be allowed in the house because that's changed hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it kind of opened me up to some questions about Robin. So, for example, when Robin passed, he kind of says... he actually says later on, there were no boundaries for him to worry about. So, with that in mind, how come he can't go anywhere?
I don't think so. The way I see it, this gets into the metaphysical of how the ghosts function.
Yeah.
I think they just have a certain amount of area from where they died that they're allowed to sort of go from, basically. And they all died near enough to the house, so they kind of... It makes sense for the show that they go past the gate, they pop back. But I would imagine there's probably an area around where they specifically died that they can't go past.
So, when you die, you can't go any further than 50 metres or something.
Probably a bit more than that than this. But yeah, I know that's it. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
God, that's terrible, isn't it?
That's the way I like to think of it because, like I said, they wouldn't have had a border and everything back in the day. So
that's what I was thinking. So.
Yeah, that's my thought. Whether that's what if they ever do another Q&A, we will ask them that.
They probably won't answer it.
Yeah. Robin says that he understands why they're selling the house, selling the land. They need the money for the baby, and Kitty says the urge to provide. For your young ones is incredibly strong, and Fanny just storms off. Nobody else is that bothered by this. Julian then goes on to explain another pro for the for the down south is that the land is incredibly valuable down here. And then we see Mike and Alison go to the solicitor. Now, it's been a long time since we've seen the solicitor. I think the last time would have been all the Lucy stuff, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was series 3.
3, yeah, so it's been 2 series since we've seen it. But if you've not got any legal stuff, then you don't need to contact him.
No.
I like how he now advises Mike on which of the balls is a mint. He kind of just points at it and he says nods. he basically he asks them if they know if it's a boy or a girl, and he says, well, if it is a girl, he knows there's a girls' school just down the road. Doesn't really know about a boys' school. To which this is another thing that Mike realizes he needs to add to his anxiety pile, basically, of another thing that he needs to think about.
School.
But he goes on to explain that they could sell the land. He says it's actually quite convenient that the gatehouse burnt down, implying that they did it on purpose. Yes. As a solicitor, don't know if I'd want to quote that that line, if you know what I mean. But he explains this land is actually green belt land, so you can't develop on it. And they start thinking of ideas of what they could do with the land. Mike suggests it's a park, which, well, he initially suggests
a cemetery.
A cemetery. That was a few things. He suggests a park first, but yeah, he does say cemetery in one, and she says, "Are you kidding?" But yeah, he does suggest a park. Says there's not much money in parks, and he says, "Well, what about Jurassic Park? That made a lot of money." He says, "Or it would have until the dinosaurs escaped." But yeah, he mentions a cemetery. They mention go-karting, but there's all these different ideas that they have. And the solicitor says, "Well, I'll put you in touch with a land sales agent to sort of start this process off." We go back to the house and we continue to see Julian and Pat continue to argue. Basically, at this point, they're talking about the best cheese. Wensleydale v Cheddar, which is
what would you say?
Probably Wensleydale, just because I don't like cheddar. So I don't really like Wensleydale, but if I had to pick either,
say you don't like.
I'd probably pick Wensleydale.
I'd probably pick Wensleydale, but it'd probably have to be with cranberry.
Yeah. I mean, do they do any other type of Wednesday? I've never seen
Wensleydale on its own.
I've never seen it, but I only ever see it at Christmas, so that's probably why.
It's because people only ever buy it at Christmas.
It's true, yeah.
Or you'd probably buy it if you were Wallace.
Yes, yeah, Wallace probably would, yeah. Anyway, we go back and we see...
You do digress.
Yeah. We see that Robin is now rubbing Kitty's feet because she's so pregnant. Which is difficult because every time he takes his shoes off and rubs for a bit, her shoes reappear on his feet.
On her feet.
I like how they start arguing like a married couple at this point as well. Yeah. And as Robin gets up, as he's sort of being told off by Kitty, but then Kitty says that the baby's kicked, to which they go, "Really?"
I like how she asks the captain over.
Yeah, to feel the baby kick. And Thomas comes in and basically is annoyed that they're all shouting and arguing and whatnot. Says he's trying to work. And Pat and Julian say he can be the decider and start throwing writers at him. Emily Bronte and I can't remember the other one he says now, actually. But yeah, just throw different writers from around the country. They say, well, he's going to take Julian's side. Obviously, they say as somebody from down here, and he says, definitely not, because I'm actually Scottish.
Where's this come from? Because it's never been, he's so adamant that he's Scottish, but we've never heard it before. Like, what's he been doing? What's he been reading to make himself?
I wonder if it's a strange thing because he's very much a person who likes to show off. Yeah. So it's surprising that he wouldn't have told everybody this before this.
If it were true.
Yeah. I believe it is true, to be honest. I think it is. Just, it's one of those... I don't know. I quite like the joke of it, to be honest. Just somebody who's randomly Scottish, and you never even thought of it before. Well, he tells them he's as Scottish as shortbread in a tartan tin. So that is pretty Scottish. And as he's doing this and storms off, Mike and Alison return. Thomas sees the basket, and she says that Mike's been stress shopping as they had to go and look at some baby things while they're in town. We've all been there, stress shopping, not for baby stuff, but just in general.
Usually Christmas.
Yes, yeah. Alison mentions to Thomas that they need to get the poem done by 5 because it needs to be submitted by then. And he starts to panic at this point as he doesn't have a poem ready. Mike goes to take the crib that he bought from earlier upstairs, and in doing so, because he's got his hands full, accidentally throws the teddy that's inside all the way down the stairs, and it bounces off every step on every way down. Obviously, this is indicative of his skills as a dad, I think, and he just starts to worry again that he's gonna do this to his baby potentially. Thomas realizes that he needs some more inspiration from Fanny and goes off to look for her, and she is outside, sort of just musing over the land that's going to be sold off, basically. We see Julian and Pat continue to argue. Alison says that she doesn't care what they're talking about. They just need to get out because she wants some peace and quiet. They're now arguing about which soap is better. They say Coronation Street or Howard's Way, which I didn't know was a thing. Which Pat says, "What's Howard's Way?"
Yes.
I didn't know was a thing until recently.
The thing is, so my mum loves Howard's Way, but I'd never heard of it until recently. I didn't know she used to watch it.
No.
Yeah,
she's got all of it taped on the skybox.
It literally takes about 6 gigs.
Yeah, more than that. I'm sure it's like 60 gigs.
Oh,
or something.
really?
It's loads.
Well, she likes it.
She does, yeah. I'm not saying anything. It is rubbish, though.
It's terrible. It's worse than Coronation. It's worse than any of the soaps.
It's incredibly dull. Like, I don't understand. Nothing seems to happen in it. But, hey, to each their own. Mike starts measuring the stairs for a baby gate, and he says, "Why don't they make baby gates this big?" Alison says it's because most people don't live in a mansion. He says this is discrimination. Mike wanders off as Alison starts asking about what there is to eat, basically, and he's again asking for something. See, I did notice this. I noted this one down, that she's asking for food, and Mike is completely preoccupied with his jobs of what he's doing. We hear Kitty talking about her baby names, and as Robin says, asks her what she's going to call it if it's a girl, she says it's going to be called Hope, Destiny, Glitter, or Sparkle, which I'm pretty sure are names for My Little Ponies. No, they sound like them, don't they? Although for a boy, she's going to call it Clive. Just the one name, Clive. And Robin kind of says at this point, he sort of humoured it enough. He says that if ghosts could have babies, then he starts to try and count and then says many babies, which again, a lot of questions to ask here anyway, you probably don't want to get into the logistics of this. But Kitty says that maybe she's not actually is not pregnant as a ghost. Maybe she was pregnant when she died, and so she's now, as we find out, that you stay in the state that you die in. So is she forever pregnant? Robin decides when he hears that she's going to be forever like this, that he's out. He says he's rubbed her feet, he's gave her a seat. He says he's a lone wolf, got to follow his own path, baby, and walks out. Which is such a typical man thing to do. It's like, I'm not dealing with it.
Stereotype, but
I can say this as a man. I just find it funny how he's like, I ain't doing this all day. Thomas eventually finds Fanny, and she's sort of brooding over this sort of land. He tries to goad some words out of her, and she's just not as poetic as she was earlier. Is basically just giving him yes or no answers. He's giving him nothing, which is panicking him, obviously, because he needs some stuff for 5 o'clock. We go back to Pat and Julian, and they're now arguing even more, and they're basically just arguing about food, but they go into many different things at this point.
Fred Truman, David Gower, Yorkshire pudding, Cornish pasties, Eccles cake, Chelsea buns.
Oh, this is making me hungry.
Fish and chips. Oh, give
I'm not
over as if
giving
you
fish
southern
and
softies
chips, you
invented
northern
fish and
monkey.
chips.
Now then. I have sampled the finest cod from Whitby and a particularly memorable place on Brighton Beach, where I had a haddock. So you're both right. Why spend all this energy on your differences, To what end? Now, I want to tell you about a chap in my regiment, name of Dixon. He was from Salford, transferred to us just before war broke out. Yes, he was different, but he was just as prepared to fight as the rest of the boys, and they treated him no differently. North and South, we all stood shoulder to shoulder in the face of a common enemy. Now, was it Salford or Salisbury? No, actually, it was Salisbury. It was Salisbury. No, but the point still stands. Why focus on what divides us, when the fact is we have the most important thing of all in common? We are all British.
What is British?
It's the soil we stand on, man. Our history. These British Isles.
Well, it wasn't always an island for a start. I mean, I walked here. You know, when I first come here, we didn't even have names for places. We have no map. No one draw a line on a picture and say, well, this is my bit, that's your bit. No one say, oh, this is the king, they're in charge. Oh, this is my flag, it's better than your flag. These are all just stories we tell. When really, it's all just man, another man.
My goodness, Robin. Wow.
Certainly makes a good point.
Yes. Why should we fight each other when we're just people in the end? Even the Germans.
Yeah. Although if other tribe come too close, we stab them with spears.
Oh, flipping it.
Oh, that's lovely.
I mean, now that I think about it, Julian, I loved me Watneys. And that were brewed in London. So fair play.
Oh. And I had some pretty good times up in the north.
Oh?
Grouse shooting on the moors. Ooh, lovely birds up there. And the grouse weren't bad either.
Yes, of course.
Again, a lot of life lessons from Robin there.
Very wise.
Very wise. I mean, he does ruin it right at the end by saying that we did stab anybody who came near us. So, but I did like this as a sort of a message that, you know, it's just, you know, what you consider is your identity, historical identity, doesn't matter because it's changed so much. And it's like, I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of people should think about in these days that we find ourselves in. But yeah, so at this point we go back to Thomas and Fanny as they're walking back to the house, and she's just giving yes or no answers again. He's asking about these different things, and he says that she must have so much to say about home. Says, what about the statues, about the gate, or what about the house? Doesn't this all add up to a home? And then Fanny actually does come back with some poetic words. She says all of her memories are of people, not of places. And then she says, flowers, I'll just read this verbatim as what she said. She says, flowers die, the trees fall, the house can change brick by brick. God, I've got marbles in my mouth today. Until nothing of the original remains. Everything changes, so home is not the walls or the gardens. Home is the soul within those walls. Home is the memories made on this spot. Home is not a place, home is a feeling. Which is very much a cracking poem, to be honest. And this, as Fanny is saying this, we kind of see it cut and transition into Thomas basically saying these words.
Reciting it to Alison.
Yeah, as he's reading this off. And Alison says that this is actually Thomas's best poem yet. And I think he gets a pang of guilt at this point. We find out why later, but he says maybe we can make a few revisions. Alison is a bit like, just leave it.
Got a minute.
Yeah, to submit. And he says, let's just make this change. And obviously he does get this in, as we find out later. Elsewhere, Mike is working on something. He's typing up. I thought initially he was doing some calculations on like how much things would cost. And Alison enters and says that there is actually somebody interested in buying the land. And they find out it's for a golf course because they want to build a golf course in the area, which won't develop on the land. They can just use the land as it is. So Mike is a bit more comforted at this, but then goes on to say that they need to come up with a name for the kid to fill out their junior ISA form. And he says that they need this because they'll need to start saving for college and university. And Alison kind of says that he needs to stop worrying about a baby that's not even been born yet. He actually needs to worry about his wife first and foremost. And actually, she says about the dinner that they need to make. I'm reminded of a RuPaul quote here. If you have one foot in the past and one in the future, you're pissing on the present. So that's what that's what Mike's doing. Yeah.
I think we should get that on a little
like a live, laugh, love kind of thing. Just on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought it is quite nice at this point. Is she's calming him down by basically saying, that's all future worries, you know what I mean? Like,
let's worry about that when we get to
yeah,
it.
exactly. Like, let's just worry about what we need to now. I think it is good to have that kind of balance. I think you need to worry, but also not go off the deep end of worry, I suppose. Kitty but sort of finds Alison and explains how she's feeling. And basically explains to Alison that she's also pregnant. She says that she's emotional. She's been off her food for ages. And she also says that her boobs are sore, much like Alison's. And Alison is a bit like, not comfortable about this conversation. And Alison kind of says that she doesn't think that she's pregnant. She says she's quite an emotional person, Kitty is. She said she's a ghost, so she can't eat food, and her boobs might be sore because she's worn a corset for 300 years, which
I can see why that would make you upset.
Understandable. And God, I would just think about your
innards.
Because they're not good for your corsets. No. Really not good.
Luke says, as a man.
Yeah.
Who does not wear a corset.
I know. Now, I remember reading about it in the 1500s and stuff like that.
It changes the shape of where your organs are.
Yeah, it really messes you up. But I mean, there's many things that they used to do back in the day that used to mess you up. But anyway, yeah, so and Kitty says, oh, that could all just be coincidences. And she says, well, Alison says to Kitty, who would the father be? And she then goes on to explain to Kitty how a person gets pregnant, to which Kitty says, and everybody who gets pregnant does this, says she's flabbergasted by what she's just heard. As Alison walks away, she starts to look at all the male ghosts with disgust, basically. Or
the ick.
Yeah, it's like, maybe she's not. And this is where Alison announces, right at the end of the episode, that...
I just missed, I don't know if
sorry.
you mentioned it, about what Kitty... I can't remember if she offers the name to Alison for the baby of Destiny Diamond.
Destiny Diamond, yeah.
It's a great name.
Which sounds like a name of something from a Metal Gear Solid game.
Or a drag queen.
yeah, true. Yeah. Alison at the end announces that the poem has been published, and they read it out, and we get basically what Thomas had just said to Alison. But we find out at the end it's signed off with by Stephanie Button, so he's given her the credit for it. Yeah. Although they say to her she should write more poems, and she says no, it's not for me. They say it's drama club next, and as they all leave, Fanny says to Alison that she can sell the land with her blessing, basically, that, they'll get by. And they go off to... they all leave and they're sort of arguing about where the best golf... I put ghost courses, but I mean golf courses are in the country. As the camera sort of pans out.
Yeah.
I thought it was a weird ending.
Very weird ending. I thought that too. I was like... Is this the end of the series?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah,
very final kind of maybe they're just gearing us up for that end. Yeah.
That's the end of the episode for this week. The end of the Ghosts episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good episode. Maybe maybe not as good as last week.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
It's still a high rating episode. It's difficult. I haven't written down. I think the rating, I would say like an 8.5.
Okay.
I do think I rated last week quite high, and I'd probably revise it and give that a 9, not a 9.5.
Yeah.
Because I think I probably did rate you. I think I got carried away with the excitement of it all. But yeah, so I think I'd revise that to a 9, and this is an 8.5. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as last week. Because I don't... Even now, I'm kind of like... Not much happened.
That's my biggest problem with it. So.
Because literally we've just spent, a good 45 minutes talking about it. And in the moment of you asking me, what did you think? I'm like, what happened in that episode? Even though we've just spent like 45 minutes talking about it, and I've watched the episode in the last few days. And I just don't think much happens. I mean, it was it just feels like a filler. But a good one at that, but still a filler.
Kind of what I thought. It's not as strong as last week. It's got some strong but unconnected moments, and I think that's the point. It just doesn't have like a strong like driving plot that like it hurts it a little bit, because it kind of feels like I'll say my rating before I say this, because this makes it sound way harsher, but I gave it a 7 basically. Okay. But because it doesn't have that like main plot that like, oh no, it does have a plot, but it doesn't have like a really strong plot. It feels a bit frivolous, you know what I mean? Like you said, filler. So I kind of come away from it like, yeah, it was okay. Like, it's better than okay, because okay would be like a 5. So it's better than that, but it's not as good as like some of the better episodes could be. Okay episode.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because I kind of I had really, from memory, like really high hopes of this series. And I think that's why I got a bit carried away last week. I was like, well, I know that every episode's amazing and it's going to be great. And I think I just got a bit carried away myself. So, yeah, it's a weird one, because I forgot this episode completely.
Yeah. Like I said, there's funny bits in it, and a lot of
great
it
lines. Like when Robin like walks away and he says...
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it says, but you did say it out loud. Like, you're on your own, baby, or something like that. Kind of...
He's a lone wolf.
That's it, So there's some great lines, but I just didn't feel like there was much to it. Like, it didn't give us that story, which we've been quite used to in the last series, I think, of like great storylines in each of the episodes. So it's just a bit different this time. But I'm... like, there's still good stuff to come, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, IMDb kind of gave it a score in between the two of ours. So with 300 votes bang on, it got 7.6. So sort of in the middle of both of our two scores, I think, which I think is fair. I'd say a 7.6. So yeah, no story this week then. So
sorry, team.
So that's the end of the episode.
See you next week.
Seems it's sad. It's a bit of a sad ending there.
Goodbye. I'm sorry. I could make one up.
No.
Thanks for listening. We love to hear what you think, and if you'd like to keep up to date with when new episodes of the podcast are released, you can follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook profile. Just search Haunting Button House. You can also get in touch via email at hauntingbuttonhouse@outlook.com.